today I thought I would honour the coming Chinese takeover of the planet, which they're coming. You know, and I thought something that's a little bit interesting. What did the ancient Romans and ancient Chinese know about each other? Did they have contact, or were they, just complete strangers?
Years ago, there was history. No, there was a Roman expeditionary force that maybe got into East China, and perhaps they stayed there. But that's as far as I know.
Yeah. So, you know quite a lot. You know more than me already, which is a good start.
Wonderful. Wonderful.
But yeah, I guess from prior to the Roman period, it seemed there was lots of trade and contact, and the Greeks and things were, obviously Alexander pushed all the way to India, so he presumably knew that there was something beyond there, because he would have. I mean, I guess the Indians knew that, so.
Or they didn't.
They're Indian.
Please keep that.
And so there's lots of great goods, sort of that show up in China, and maybe evidence of minor contact between the Greeks and Chinese, but the first, I guess, solid evidence, if you like, between the Romans and the Chinese is, according to my boy Augustus Caesar.
Oh.
Now, part of the difficulty is the Romans. Sorry, they just had they called the Chinese the word Ceres, Seres, but they use that to refer to just sort of anyone from the Far East. So when they said they could be talking about Mongolians, Chinese, sometimes they're called Indians.
Yeah.
So it's kind of when they're saying they meet these people, it's like.
So it's like Roman, and then it's like, oh, you've got your Persians and stuff.
Ceres.
And then, there be dragons.
So yeah, supposedly Ceres, or a Chinese embassy, visited Augustus to pay tribute and, express their undying reverence for Rome and all that.
Yeah.
Could just be a propaganda thing of like, hey, even these guys that, we've known...
On the edge of the world.
On the edge of the world, and this is it's a long quote, but this is a quote. So, even the rest of the nations of the world, which were not subject to the imperial sway, were sensible of its grandeur, and looked with reverence to the Roman people, the great conqueror of nations. Thus, even the Scythians and Sarmatians sent envoys to seek friendship with Rome. The Ceres came likewise, and the Indians who dwelt beneath the vertical sun, bringing presents of precious stones and pearls and elephants, but thinking all of less moment than the vastness of the journey which they had undertaken, and which they said had occupied 4 years. In truth, it needed but to look at their complexion to see that they were people of another world than ours.
That 4 years lines up really closely with the Marco Polo.
Yeah, the historians I was reading think that it's maybe not an official, the Emperor of China. It's like, hey, go over there.
Could be more mercantile.
Yeah, like some merchants just sort of wound their way over there. And
I speak for all of China.
Yeah, and then someone in Rome's like, hey, you look different.
The noticing continues. It's like, oh, look, I haven't seen one of those before.
But I think it's funny as well that they've noticed their complexion and just gone, they can't be from... They just must be from somewhere totally different.
They're not even Roman.
Interestingly, though, it seems like Parthian, so you got the Roman Empire, the Parthian Empire, or the Persian Empire, or like the great rivals of Rome. They kind of occupied that sort of Central Asian.
Yeah, the Parthian, they would have been horse nomads as well, because the Parthian shots famously.
Yeah, so if you imagine the area from, say, the Middle East to, just touching India, that's kind of the Parthian Empire. It sort of changed, but the Parthians would send embassies to the Chinese, the Han Chinese,
Mm-hmm.
you know, and brought like lots of gifts and things like that. But it's kind of like an interesting insight into the spheres of knowledge of the ancient world, where the Romans knew about the Parthians and had lots of dealings with them. The Parthians knew about the Romans, knew about the Chinese. The Chinese knew about but didn't know much about the Romans. So it's just funny how it sort of separates like that.
And the Parthians are sitting there in the middle being like, I know everything. But I'll never tell.
Yeah, I mean, obviously the Romans would have talked to the Parthians at some point, and they must have known that obviously they knew there was something out there, but they just didn't know.
Hey, you guys, fuck you. Non-Romans, get out of here.
So then in the 97 AD, there was an official, I guess, Chinese embassy or an official Chinese journey by this guy, Gan Ying, who explored the west from China. So he journeyed through Parthia, apparently made it all the way to the Persian Gulf and provided lots of information about the Roman Empire back to China.
Yep.
So he described things like the vegetation, he said that the empire had over 400 walled towns. And he explained their postal relay system. Kind of like we were talking about the Chinese.
The Yam, I think, still really cool.
I don't know how far people think he got. Like I said, the Persian Gulf, maybe he went a bit further.
Yep.
He was discouraged he wanted to go onto Rome or onto this place, but people said it would take too long, like take 2 years or something to get there, which...
And it's like, bro, you look kind of funny. I think you're going to rock up and they're going to be like, what are you?
Yeah. But this is a quote from this guy, Gan Ying.
Quote.
And so he's talking about the Roman Empire. Its territory extends for several thousands of li, and a li is it's like a unit of measurement the Chinese use. It's roughly about 400 meters. They have established postal relays at intervals, which are all plastered and whitewashed. Yep. There are pines and cypresses, as well as trees and plants of all kinds. It has more than 400 walled towns, and there are several tens of smaller dependent kingdoms. The walls of the towns are made of stone.
Pretty groovy.
Yeah, so it's kind of interesting. Also described their system of government as a meritocratic system, or like a...
Describing the Roman system,
where it's like, you know, the best sort of rise to the top.
Do you think it's more accurate to say like nepotism or meritocracy in Rome?
Well, some was nepotism, but
there was a lot of meritocracy as well.
I think especially towards the end of the empire, it was more like, who's got the biggest army?
Yeah. I guess we're working for you.
So then they didn't hear much from each other, and then supposedly in 166 AD, an embassy of Rome was sent to the Chinese. Maybe from Marcus Aurelius or his predecessor, Antonius Pius.
Ooh.
Or Pius, however you want to.
When in doubt, go with the funniest sounding one. Pius.
You know, supposedly it was the purpose of this journey was to establish diplomatic relations and trade relations to try and bypass the Persians.
Yeah, those guys.
Yeah, there was stories or accounts of the Persians essentially just like blocking any Roman attempt to contact the Chinese.
The same thing, it's like you can draw a line with Constantinople falling, like the Arabs getting onto that side of the Aegean, and the very first crumbs of the age of exploration, because all of a sudden you couldn't get trade goods across from Turkey anymore, from the Middle East and stuff. You had to, well, at the very least, make it more difficult. So that's kind of what that sounds like. Yeah,
they wanted, similar idea. They were trying to bypass. And so in my head, I'm imagining, you know, you've got these Roman merchants or whoever, like, we're going out here, and the Parthians are just like, no,
stop it, get out of here. We don't respect your commerce.
Yeah. But I don't know what the chronicle's called. This is a quote from the Chinese again of this embassy. So again, talking about the Romans. The king of this state always wanted to enter into diplomatic relations with the Han, the Chinese, but Parthia, who they called Angxi or Angxi, wanted to trade with them in Han silk, and so put obstacles in their way so that they could never have direct relations. So essentially the Parthians wanted to keep the silk trade.
It's cucking them.
Yeah. This continued until the 9th year of the Yangshi reign of Emperor Huan, when Andun, king of Dakin, so Dakin is the Chinese word for Rome, and Andun is referring to either Marcus Aurelius or Antonius Pius. So Andun, the king of Dakin, sent an envoy from beyond the frontier of Renan who offered elephant tusk, rhinoceros horn, and tortoise shell. It was only then that for the first time communication was established between the two states.
That's cool.
It's kind of cool, eh?
He's very cool.
Don't know where they got the tortoise shell from.
Some poor bastard that couldn't outrun him, I guess. He scooped him out.
Yeah.
I found this bowl.
Yeah, that's kind of it. And then sort of after that period, there was, reports of Roman merchants in China and sort of in the Chinese Empire. There's lots of Roman trade goods and things found in Vietnam.
I imagine they would sort of, if it wasn't through the Middle East, a lot of, if there was trade and it wasn't just an item that makes it all the way to the end, it'd be like through the Arabian Gulf, kind of like...
Yeah, like along the Indian Ocean kind of thing, Yeah. And I do think the vast majority of all this trade would have been, that sort of bunny hopping person to person or town to town kind of thing. Yeah. But of course, there must have been people that sort of went all the way back. And
if you lived in a world where you didn't know the edges of the earth, but you knew there were goods of all sorts that sort of come from distant lands and all of that. Like, with the exception of but you can't go there because, the Tartars are,
cock blocking us.
Yeah, cock blocking us, or infidel armies, or just whatever it is. I like to think I'd be a curious enough person to be like, where does the tin come from?
Yeah.
You pull a Pythias and just be like, oh.
Well, it's funny you say that. So there'd been sort of trade all along there. Obviously, the big commodity was silk. The Silk Road and all that. The Romans seem to think that silk came from India. It was around the middle of the 6th century, the 500s.
Yeah.
That they found out that it came from beyond India.
You're like,
China. And so the emperor at the time, this is in the 500s, the Western Empire had fallen, and there was just the Eastern Empire. The emperor at the time, Justinian, all these silks coming in, it's a highly valuable commodity.
I like the silk.
Yeah, and so these two Nestorian monks who had travelled east, they were the ones that reported back and said, no, it comes from China. Yeah, that's where the silk comes from.
China.
China. Comes from China. And so they offered, presumably in return for significant wealth, they offered to go steal some silkworms and bring them back to Constantinople. Which Justinian said, go for it.
A little covert operation to get the worms.
So you have to imagine this sort of spy operation, and they went on this big journey, and so they got some silkworms and they hid them in like bamboo and stuff like that, and apparently silkworms are very fragile.
You sit on them?
You got to keep them temperature controlled, that kind of stuff, and
melted in his pocket.
And so it was in about 550 that they smuggled these silkworm eggs or larvae back to Constantinople, and it created the Byzantine silk industry.
Really?
Yeah,
That's
so that
sick.
you can still buy them today. You can buy Byzantine silk.
I thought you were going to say something like, and then they got back and approached the Eastern Emperor and presented him with a bunch of dead silkworms.
Sorry.
Oh, that's really cool. China must have been gutted.
Yeah.
That's why they don't give a shit about intellectual property today.
Yeah.
Like, no, you guys started this.
This is revenge for the silkworms.
Forget the opioid wars. This is the silkworms.
Give us back our silkworms. I didn't actually know that. And this whole silk industry became like the basis of the East Roman economy for like the next 700 years.
So it's like, as you pointed out a couple of weeks ago, it's like just stealing trade secrets.
Yeah.
Corporate secrets.
Yeah, literally. And, all this born in the purple stuff. And that's how they made all these silk purple robes and all that.
It's like a Chinese scientist today watching an Elon Musk launch, being like watching the Falcon 9, like, oh yes, and then they try and build it and whatever. And
I thought that was a cool story. Bit of spy espionage.
yeah.
From the monks as well. The monks.
Just think of the logistics, like the distance is the same as Marco Polo, right?
Yeah.
More or less. Unless it'd be an easier route, I imagine, if you went along the coast under like India and whatever. Presumably, if you could do it, but if it was along land, that's a long journey. If you make it, he's like, yeah, I'll see you back. Eastern Emperor. See you in 8 years or whatever.
Yeah.
And they take off and, eventually they come back and it's like, oh, mate, it's been 16 years.
Yeah.
What's wrong? It's like, well, the first time we only got as far back as like, we weren't even at India and someone sat on the worms.
Yeah.
And then like, God, 8 years ago, like we were so close. We were just like, we're in the Mediterranean, we're ready to go, and it was just a hot day and
Killed them.
It's like, and there was dozens of tries where we'd only sort of make it a day or so down the road before we'd have to like, God damn, they need to eat as well,
I can just imagine Justinian like sitting in his palace, in Constantinople, and he's like, I wonder what happened to those guys. He's like, oh man, I would have really loved that silk.
Yeah. He was just like, oh, Justinian. Don't mean to bother you. Some guys are here saying they've got your worms. Like, worms? What?
Something about silk or...
Yeah. Oh, those guys. Oh, shit. Snap. Okay. Bring them in, Let's see what they got.
Then there wasn't. There was a big dynasty change in China.
Yeah.
Went from the Tang dynasty. I always think of the beer Tang.
Mm.
That. Maybe it's related. I don't know. But they made contact in 643.
Yep.
Yeah. So they had a couple of diplomatic contacts, but sort of around that time or just before that period was the big sort of Islamic sort of conquest, which massively reduced. Obviously, the Byzantine territory.
I'm sorry, but they just fucked everything up, didn't they?
They did.
Northern Africa, Constantinople, Spain, not as worried about, but it was getting pretty close.
It's could be a fact to say that if the Arab Muslims didn't initiate the conquest like they did, World War I would have never have happened.
And definitely no transatlantic slave trade. That might actually be true, the transatlantic slave trade thing, because they like their slaves, those Aladdins.
Yeah. But then there's lots of political unrest in China as well. So the sort of contact stopped.
Yep.
And Europe went in the Dark Ages and all that stuff. And
Continue
then it was
just working on Jesus and other stuff.
Thinking about Jesus and thinking about how to divinely appoint kings and all that kind of stuff. And then
with men. Sorry.
Which is the right oil to put on their head. And then later on in the Middle Ages, like the 1200s or whatever, then contact was sort of gradually re-happened with our boy and
Ooh.
Marco Polo and everything,
And they were like, they look like what? It's like,
Yeah.
no, you wouldn't ever believe it, but, it's- and they're like, no, Marco, Mr. Marco, tell me more lies. And it's like, and they look like this, and they're like...
So to sum up,
Guarantee it.
the Romans knew the Chinese existed and vice versa, but they knew virtually nothing about each other, and that's it.
I think if I could add one little bit, and I don't know if it's the same story, but I know there was an expedition where...
That's what I was going to say.
Yeah.
I think this is what you're talking about. So I don't know if it was a myth or legend or what, but when Licinius Crassus, the Roman general, tried to invade the Parthian Empire or the Persian Empire, and he had that huge massacre, and a large part of his force was captured and then presumably sold into slavery in the Parthian Empire, and supposedly was sold even further east and made it all the way to China. The evidence for that is one of the Chinese chronicles at the time talks about this foreign unit or like a mercenary unit or something that would fight in a fish scale formation.
Cool.
And they had, I forget I think it was, they had these particular kind of spears or swords that they used as well. So
like short swords, counterweight on the bottom. Kind of
and they fought in a square formation.
Yeah.
And so that the fish scale thing, people think that's the Roman sort of testudo, like locking the shields in, and there was this sort of idea, or I think it's Liquin or Liqin, I don't know how to say it, this town in China where supposedly that's where they and they built this square walled fortress. And supposedly in modern times in that town, Chinese people would have blonde eyes, blonde hair, blue eyes. I did sort of look in, and one, I guess, DNA study that they did said the modern peoples of that town there's no sort of connection and all that. So it's one of those, who knows?
Yeah.
Could probably a myth, but it's kind of cool to think that
absolutely
that this Roman unit they just kept getting moved on and mercenary and sort of, and they found their way to China, and they're like,
they're
just gonna keep fighting like this because it works.
They're walking around the place like, hey, do you guys know where Rome is? It's been a long time and we don't know.
They say all roads lead to Rome,
but that's not true, is it? No, that's cool.
So there you go.
Thanks for sharing that. Oh no, hang on, that's the white power.
China.